Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope there's no problems. You never know uh, with technology. Kindness, please let me know if you can hear me. Please give me a one in the chat. And welcome and good morning. Hoping that you can hear me. So let's just test and make sure everything is working and up to par. And then we will move. Hear me. Okay. Right on. Good morning. Okay. So once again, we have to debunk the flying monkeys. And it's important to do that. I'm going to tell you why. If you remember the Casey Anthony case, and I'm sure you do, and that was a pretty high profile case. It did go global, just like Micah. And if you recall, just recently I did a show where I was covering how defense teams will hire a private investigator, and certain private investigators are their job is to obviously work for the defense and changing public opinion in hopes that they change the legal outcome for the defendant. Now, that worked in the Casey Anthony case. Well, just so you know, the very same private investigator that worked on that case is the very same private investigator that was brought in early on in the Micah Miller case. Now, things are much different since Casey Anthony, where technology is used to try to debunk uh, the public opinion of Micah was actually killed and did not take her own life. And what they'll do is they'll try to infiltrate, and we're going to go over that again because something's bear repeating. We're not going to allow them to change public opinion and sway it to lies to protect murders. We're just not going to do it. I don't care if they're getting paid. The only reason why they're doing this is because they're getting paid. They're not standing for truth, but they will infiltrate people who are standing for the justice of the victim, try to make themselves look like they're part of that movement, and then work very hard or tirelessly at trying to debunk. And so I'm going to expose one of them, and then we're going to go over their jobs again, why they're hired, who they are, and what their purpose is, okay? So let me share this screen with you. Hold on one second. And if by chance you're on Facebook, which most of us are, if you are already following, let me see if I have the right person. Yeah. If you are already following this group, please leave it. So it's called Justice for Micah Miller, Truth Matters. Okay. They are not into the truth. This is a flying monkey group. This particular post, and I'll read it. It's a bunch of garbage, but I'll read it anyway. And somebody brought this to my attention this morning. So I said, don't worry about it. I will respond in every best way I know how. One, directly, and then two, on my show. So that's why I'm here today. So they write, it is time to put this outrageous theories, obviously they're not good with English, that Chris Skinner's wheelchair was driven into the pool by a remote device to rest. While it is true that the chair had Bluetooth capabilities, they are for connecting the user's smart devices, like phones and tablets, to the chair for the user's convenience. The chair cannot be controlled via Bluetooth from an app on a phone, and some media outlets have falsely reported. This was after they had already falsely reported that the wheelchair that Chris took to the pool that day was a track fab. If you call yourself a journalist, it is probably a good idea to do your research and check facts if you want to be considered credible. There is an option called attendant control, but it is an additional module that can be added to the back of the chair that allows an attendant to use an additional joystick to control the chair. There is also a button on the module that must be engaged to switch from driver mode to attendant mode. You can see in pictures of Chris's chair that his chair did not even have that feature. Now, just stop with the remote control conspiracy nonsense. PerMobile does not have that option. As for the media printing fake news, do better. People not doing proper research and sharing nonsense is leading to clueless individuals trying to entice law enforcement agencies to investigate a theory that does not exist. And is just making them look silly at this point and will lead them to never be taken seriously again. The first step any law enforcement agency will take is controlling per mobile or contacting per mobile, who is going to tell them the wheelchair had no remote control option, case closed. Actually, no, the case is not closed. And let me tell you why. I did not say he was in the track fab. I said he was in the other chair, and that was from his own sister's mouth. We were able to even show photos of that chair. This was the chair that had the capability of standing up. And yes, it had remote control capabilities and had the app, which would actually control the movement of the chair. So this person did not do their homework, but they're just looking to debunk, and they're trying to debunk with the defense of conspiracy theory. Not going to work. So my response was, some people choose to be selectively deaf. Let's try this one more time. Please remember the word hack. If you don't have an understanding of that, then please stop with the lame term, sorry, I misspelled that, conspiracy theory, as it makes you sound not credible. Secondly, we have already had a witness to a conversation between JP and Chris where JP was insisting to be able to try to remote controlling Chris's chair. Why would he want to do that? Because he never manipulated an electronic wheelchair. The footage of Chris going around the pool shows his chair jerking before coming to a standstill where we see him. Conveniently, Myrtle Beach Police Department did not release that footage under FOIA, only the one of him by the pool. Not suspicious at all. Chris was in a wheelchair for about 20 years. He knew how to handle his own chair. So something else was going on. It was his mother who stated this when she was allowed to see the elusive footage. Lastly, the FBI are not going to investigate a suicide case unless they feel he was led to do this to himself. However, there's no crossing of state lines here with Chris's case. Okay? There just isn't. And why would a suicidal person come into a pool area, go directly to a chess table, and wait? If he was looking to take his own life, wouldn't he have just rolled into the pool? Please think before just trying to debunk someone with just conspiracy theory as your defense. Okay, so we've already had family. Once again, please do not follow this group because it's a flying monkey group. That's what it is. It's nothing more. And I've seen on this page other ways that are trying to debunk things that have been said about Mica and what we found about her. And so this is just their way of trying to change public opinion in hopes to change the legal outcome. That's their job. That's what they're hired to do. And we are not going to allow them to manipulate what we know as truth. Now, again, it's not been concluded by the feds of what really happened to Christopher on that day. Okay? But let's remember this. Again, there's nothing about Chris's death that's about state lines. The feds get involved if there's a case that's involving state lines. However, the person that is involved, meaning his wife and John Paul Miller, have already stated before and after Chris's death about the amount of money that Chris was getting, or I'm sorry, forgive me, Susie was getting from Chris's death. Okay, that's a red flag. It's also a red flag when the wife is there at the scene, doesn't go with her husband in the ambulance, but is more concerned about showing a DNR, and then stays behind to be with the pastor. Doesn't get in the ambulance to go with her husband. There also is a red flag that he was lured to that pool by meeting somebody at the chess table who never showed up. You want us to believe that it was an accident. The wheel wasn't even close to the pool. So that was debunked. And now that we know it wasn't an accident, now we're going to try to push towards that he did this to himself. Okay, if you want us to believe that, then why didn't he just do it to himself when he came into the pool area? Why did he sit and wait to play a game first? That doesn't make sense to anybody. And to me and to most people who watched that video, it looked like he panicked before going into that pool. And why would John Paul Miller, shortly before his death, be so interested in remote controlling that chair? You can't dismiss these things, and neither is the feds. They're not going to dismiss those. Those are facts. Those aren't conspiracy theories. These aren't things that were made up or speculated. So that's why the feds are involved. Because why? Chris's death was suspicious. Because the two people that were involved in this are also involved in Micah's death and probably others. And by the way, that person is under federal investigation and has an ankle monitor on. And Chris's, wife, Susie, who is now John Paul's wife, has also been served. Facts, all facts. Let's talk about the flying monkeys for a minute. What's their job? What's their job? Why do they do this? I'll show you. And forgive me because I'm showing you my Facebook page, so sometimes things will jump up, so I'll try to control that. Now, it says in here, in high-profile legal and public disputes, the use of individuals such as fixers, opposition researchers, agent provocators, and crisis public relations specialists is often reported, though the legitimacy and the ethics of such practices are frequently debated, for good reason. Now, under that, they talk about, these roles are typically employed to manage reputations, gather intelligence, influence public perception, and undermine opponents. So, of course, anybody that's out there is looking to oppose that I've brought up and this witness has brought up the possibility of him being remote controlled into the chair. Forgive me, guys. I only had one cup of coffee. Being remote controlled into the pool. Okay, that's their job. Let me see if this will actually work. Oh, it did. Look at that. Okay. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm getting... Okay. All right. So the use of such operatives is not new. Historically, governments and powerful institutions have employed agent provocators, individuals who infiltrate movements or organizations to incite illegal or disruptive behavior, thereby justifying repression or discrediting the group. The group that we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is Justice for Mica and Justice for Chris. That's what they're infiltrating, and that's what they're trying to discredit. They're trying to discredit the fact that we believe Mica did not take her own life. They're trying to discredit that we believe that either Chris was driven emotionally, psychologically to do this to himself, or mostly that somebody remote controlled him into the pool. And we've been able to prove over and over again that this can be done through, let me try one more time, hacking. My God, why is that word so difficult for people to understand? Well, his chair had an app. His chair didn't have an app. Who mentioned the word app? Me? Never. I said hacking. From the very beginning. If you go to the very first video, that's the word I use. Hacking. So what does hacking mean? They broke into the actual motor of the chair and changed it to where they were able to control it from the outside of that chair with another device. Hacking. And they were able to do it in 5 minutes. And I proved that. So did Forbes in 2016. So did the multiple videos that I have played throughout the 20 months. to show people. There's one with a teddy bear in the wheelchair. You going to tell me the teddy bear was controlling the chair? Anybody? No, it was hacked. This is not that difficult, really. All right, I'm trying to skip over the example stories because they're political and it has nothing to do with us. Okay, okay, this is talking about somebody named Lively in their case. Overall, the hiring of fixers, opposition researchers, agent provocators, and crisis PR specialists in high profile cases reflect a broader trend of using strategic, often covert, which means they're infiltrating in a very a way that can't be seen well, covert, if you understand what that means. Methods to influence public perception and legal outcomes. This is what they're trying to do. They want to change the legal outcome, the legal consequence, the legal accountability for John Paul Miller and Susie Skinner. This is not difficult. When you've got a group of women that say, we want to give a platform for John Paul Miller to tell his side of the story, that's not an indication that they're working for him. When you've got people who refer to themselves as protesters and all they do is attack Justice for Mica people, you really believe they're protesters? When you've got people who start Facebook groups, who spend that entire group trying to debunk all the people have investigated the past 20 months, you really believe they're Justice for Mica? People, you've got to think for yourself. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If you see any of that kind of behavior, that tells you that we're dealing with fixers, opposition researchers, agent provocators, crisis PR specialists who were hired by the defense team initially and the private investigator. I just told you, this private investigator that got involved from the very beginning worked on the Casey Anthony case. And they believe that they were successful in that case, and they were, in changing public opinion, obviously, because she got away with it. That child was found blocks away from her house. Her mother's car smelled like death. Her police officer father said that, and the woman walked. So these people are good at what they do. You can't be so naive and ignorant and lazy to just go, oh, you said justice for Mica, you must be one of us. No. This is what I mean about warnings. Okay, it's not as if this has not been said before, but now it really needs to be out there. Why? Because we're in the midst of him going to court. We're in the midst of a jury pool being selected. We got jury members coming, and we haven't finished justice for Chris. And we're not going to allow the devil to dictate. Because what backs up all of these people? What is really the backing up of a fixer? The opposition researcher, the agent provocator, the crisis PR specialist. Really, what is their job? What are they supporting? The very same thing that those women who wanted to give a platform to an abuser were doing. They're defending the abuser. They're defending the accused. And they're re-victimizing the victim. And trying to make victims out of the family. Trying to make victims out of the people who are truly, truly supporting justice for Mica and justice for Chris. Tamra has been so badly, and she's not the only family member, by the way, attacked by these very people. When I have stood up and spoke up against these people, okay? Their first tactic is to go out and attack my Christianity, my looks, the way I talk, my marriage, my past, because that's their job. They're not justice for Micah. When all you do is content is create drama or debunk or attempt to at least with stupid, lame terms like conspiracy theory, that's evident that you are working on the other side. You don't give a crap about justice for Micah, justice for Chris at all. You never did. And you're not fooling me. But there's too many people out there fighting for the justice of these two people, Micah and Chris, who are fooled. They think by being syrupy, sweet, nice, they're going to be able to find the answers, or they're going to ride the fence. Well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate, and I'm going to make friends with the other side, and then I'm going to make friends with the justice for Micah so I get information. I call BS on that. Absolute BS. You're not playing with a bunch of women who drink coffee and sit around and gossip. You are dealing with professionals, people who've been doing this for years. When I called out Jesus J, I got so badly attacked. And then P.S., 2 months later, this guy with his own mouth was admitting that he worked alongside True Crime Marie as far back as 8 years ago in the Heather Elvis case. And I stood there going, I wonder if these SOBs are going to apologize to me for being right in the first place. No, not at all. But I see them at the case, and the news, the mainstream media news, is stupid enough to go and interview these people as if they were justice for Micah. JP and his minions are bullies who think they can do what they want above the law and outsmart everyone, including the FBI. Well, guess what? Guess what? They're not. Okay? The one person who tried to manipulate the person that was working for me has been reported to the authorities. Let me get that up here. That's him. You got it. And he has stepped back. He has stepped back, social media wise, because why? All his flying monkeys are out there doing their job, trying to get Justice for Micah movement to believe that, well, I guess I changed my mind. I realized I was wrong for being friends with True Crime Marie. And I shouldn't have, befriended John Paul Miller, and I shouldn't have given him a platform. And I hope God forgives me, and Christians should forgive. Christians should have discernment when the devil is standing there in front of you, telling you something different than the truth. You're not being a biatch by calling them out, because Jesus called out liars. Jesus didn't tolerate manipulators and narcissists. He either called them out or he ignored them. Somebody somewhere made up their mind that God, like I said yesterday, was some kind of a passive-aggressive Santa Claus who just allows everybody to have bad behavior because they consider that mercy and grace. No. I don't know what Bible you're reading, but it ain't the godly one. Maybe the Satanic Bible says that. And I'm being serious here. I got the words in front of you because you can't no longer say, I didn't know. And let me read it one more time. Overall, the hiring of fixers, opposition researchers, agent provocators, and crisis PR specialists in high-profile cases reflects a broader trend of using strategic, often covert methods to influence public perception and legal outcomes. That is their goal. That's what they're being paid for. And let's talk about them being paid. It's obvious that Daddy Warbucks has enough money to pay them. That's why they've been working so hard and tirelessly for the past 20 months, because he's had a safe full of money and other assets that he was able to liquidate and keep these people on the payroll. And when they were finally, what's the word I'm looking for? Lord, give me the word. Exposed for who they really are. Thank you, Lord. Then they would go, tag, you're it, and they'd be out and put in a new person. And people thought I was crazy because I'd go, okay, this new person is another plant. And when I would call that out, I would get husbands and people in my chat going, how dare you talk about my wife that way? Really? Well, tell me, why was your wife sitting in the courthouse next to Trisha Ross? You want to answer me that? Or how about this? What was your wife doing getting a lunch invitation from Reginald Miller a few months ago? You know, you might be able to blow smoke up the rear ends of people in your area and they buy it. But guess what? Ann ain't. I ain't buying it, brother. So keep your soapbox nonsense about your wife out of my chat. Because she's been found out. She's a Miller plant. How much is she making? Good money? I hope. Huh. In-frigging credible. Just incredible. That's the problem. I speak the truth and they can't stand it. They can't stand it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Thank you. The very first time Eric Z came on a live, I knew it, claiming someone could take a hit like Mica did and still walk 100 feet. Yeah, Dr. Z knows everything, doesn't he? Right. She gets shot and walks 100 feet. Okay, right. I've got some land to sell you in the Everglades. Why don't you build a brick house there? You know what I mean? It's like we've got brains of Fig Newton. And we're supposed to, but you have to remember, this guy and his flying monkeys were able to, successfully do this in a high profile case like Casey Anthony. And when you've had the taste of success, you get arrogant enough to think you can keep doing it. Guess what? Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and all of heaven wasn't behind Casey Anthony, but they're behind Micah Miller and they're behind Chris Skinner. And if you think you're going to go up against them, good luck. You're not going up against me, brother. You're going up against Almighty God, who can wipe Eric Z off the planet and his existence and anybody that remembers him. Don't mess with God. The minute Micah stopped breathing was the moment that God said, we're done. That's enough. Time to expose and time to stop this. Micah's death was going to open up a box, a Pandora's box of things that have been hidden for decades. I've been saying that from the very beginning. Yeah, I remember that, Mary. And her wrist had bruised. That's right. And here's the thing about that. So a lot of people have argued, well, that could have been because she was moved after death. All right. Sometimes you got to read the entire friggin' medical examiner's summary. You can't just read one line and go, well, I got the answer. No. You got to look at the temperature of her body. Yes, it was unfixed. That's true, which would indicate the possibility of the movement of blood. But not one bit of it was on her face or her neck. Not one. And I can attest to that. You know why? Because I saw her. I saw photos. It wasn't there. That's number one. Number two, her body was cool, not cold, cool. That means that she wasn't in any of those positions, especially prone, for a very long time. So at the time that she was examined, she was cool. That means it's between warm and cold. If in fact she would have been cold and the blood would have been posterior, you can argue that she'd been laying on her back for a long time and the blood moved there. But because she was cool, means that it wasn't long enough. That's why Nancy Grace wanted to chew up and spit out that medical examiner. Because you're going to look at all of it. Actually, you know what, Barbara? It wasn't. I cried. I'll tell you that. But she was absolutely, it was like looking at a China doll. Beautiful. Beautiful girl. I know we've all said that she was beautiful, but I mean, just perfect. Absolutely perfect. There's just too many reasons to believe that she did not do this to herself. From where the wound is, to the conversation on the 911 call, to the way she was acting hours, days, weeks, months before her death. The FBI, pardon me, knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing. That's why this first indictment was dated, their accusations dated all the way up to the date of her death. So now I heard a rumor, I'm going to call it a rumor right now, that they weren't able to get, I don't know if it's the jury selection or the beginning of the trial, or maybe both, started until June, right? And most people are going to go, oh gosh, we got to wait till June. Let me tell you something. That gives a longer period of time for the feds to come up with additional charges. Don't complain about the amount of time, because that's what we want. The flying monkeys and the people who are on the side of John Paul Miller want this over today. We want it done right. We want convictions. We want charges. Right? We want all the charges that we know they have done to her and to Chris. Unless you've got an absolute way of debunking the remote control theory, shut up. Just shut up. Nobody asked you. If your defense is to call me a conspiracy theorist, then join the club. Stand in line. You're not going to be the first person to say that. But if that's all you've got, don't waste my time. Because that's exactly what you're doing. And please explain to me, if you're going to be one of those idiots to do that, please explain to me this. Why was John Paul Miller so interested in remote controlling Chris's chair if there was no remote control? Hello? Is this thing on? Anybody out there? I mean, can you answer that question? Or you're one of these fixers, opposition researchers, agent propagators, or crisis PR people that have been hired by the private investigator who was hired by the defense team, which we can assume was Russell Long. Got any way to debunk that? Out of Eric Z's own mouth, he said he worked for the Casey Anthony case. Thank you, Barbara. I really don't mind. I can't stand lying. I can't stand it. It makes me crazy. And to think that people are hired to lie, To think that people, basically, if you look at this definition, it's a nice way of saying they were hired to be manipulators of the truth. When somebody is accused of something and they're truly innocent of the accusation, they don't need to hire fixers, opposition researchers, agent provocators, and crisis PR specialists to be covert or to influence public perception and legal outcomes. The truth always stays the truth. But because John Paul Miller has been able throughout decades pay off police, pay off judges, pay off attorneys, pay off doctors to get away with everything he's gotten away with, this mental midget thought he was going to do this with the feds. I've been saying for 20 months the feds are involved, the feds are involved, the feds are involved. Let me remind you one more time. In that very courtroom, there were FBI agents, U.S. Marshals, and Homeland Security. What the hell is Homeland Security doing in that courtroom? Why would they care? You think the FBI needs help with John Paul Miller? One man? He needs the U.S. Marshals to be sitting there? Why? The FBI agents can't handle John Paul Miller? Or is there more to this case than we've yet to see? Why is it so difficult to understand? Yes. Yeah, I'm going to put Mary's comment. Yes. Me too. I believe that. I absolutely believe that. And so we have to let this play out the way God believes it's going to play. Let me tell you something. These opposition researchers and fixers and provocators and crisis specialists, prepare yourself because you're on the list. Because you've done some illegal things throughout these 20 months. You've harassed, you've cyberbullied, you've intimidated, you've manipulated, you've defamed. Let me tell you something that happened to Guru, and I could tell you because it actually happened on a live. He was live at the courthouse. And the FBI has something called an FBI liaison. And what they do is the liaison is somebody who will speak to the public, I think the media, to give any kind of updates that they're allowed to give without compromising a case. And so the liaison was standing next to Guru. And Guru is filming. He's on live, what's happening at the courthouse. And so Guru turns around to the liaison and goes, do you know if John Paul is coming out the front door or the back door? Because he's notorious for leaving the back door. And the liaison says, well, he's not really supposed to go out the back door because that's for disabled people, but he might. And they kind of laughed about it. So Guru said to him, well, no big deal. I live near him. And if I need to get a shot of him, I'll get a shot of him. And the liaison turns around and goes, I know. We know all about you. Fatima, let me get rid of this. I want you to listen to what that liaison said. To Guru, I know. We know who you are. We know all about you. I've been saying all this time, every post, every live, every private message, every text message, every phone call, on all platforms, the feds are watching. I've said it over and over and over and over and over again. So every time a flying monkey or a plant, which pretty much are the one and the same, harassed, manipulated, cyberbullied, a real Justice for Mica content creator or just follower or supporter, the feds know who you are. When you use law enforcement as a weapon to go after one of those people, they know about it. When you put my husband up all over his body from 19 years ago, a photo that was taken 19 years ago, all over TikTok, they know who you are. When you referred to me and Steph as a social experiment, which is against the law, being that especially that we're both disabled women, the feds know who you are and they know about it. If you think you're safe, you're only fooling yourself. I'd hire an attorney if I were you, because you're next. So if you see any more of these Facebook groups or lives on TikTok, or even if they have the audacity to show up on YouTube or on Instagram or wherever it is, if you're following it, please unfollow. And if you see them, don't respond. Remember, even an angry response ups the algorithm for them to get out there even further. If you don't respond, if you ignore, if you block, if you act like they don't exist, they die out. And they don't get to change public perception as they want to. And tell your friends. Don't give any more oxygen to this. And I've showed it to you now. I've showed it to you. I've given you the explanation on why there are people doing this from the very beginning. What is their purpose? What is their reason? The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. People will do, some people, not all, will do incredibly evil things for the sake of money. I believe that one person has lost their life because they made a lot of money helping with the Micah Miller death, not realizing that this was going to end his own life. But I believe he made quite a bit of money. And that'll be proven. That'll come out. You know who I'm talking about. So that's my show for today. I guess you guys were like, where's the cooking? Don't worry about it. I'm bringing that to you. But this had to have been talked about. I had to bring this out because it's got to stop. We're going on 2 years, people. 2 years. These flying monkeys have had some sort of control over the narrative. They've scared people away. I know of people that were working on this case that no longer work on this case because of them. The only reason why they're able to create the drama that they've created is because people who follow the Justice for Mica and support Justice for Mica will go on their lives in their chat and sit and listen to them and say, I just want to hear what they have to say. Why? Give me a good reason. Are you writing a book? Are you investigating flying monkeys? Are you a psychologist? Are you an FBI investigator? Why in the hell would you want to listen to any of those women? You clicking on there and listening and being inside that room, you are giving them oxygen. You are supporting them. Don't give me the, I just want to hear them. No, you're bored with your own life and you just want to hear drama. Shame on you. Because what you're doing is you're supporting the abuser and the accuser that victimized Mica. Don't stand there and give me, I'm justice for Mica, when you're sitting there secretly supporting the people who are supporting the accuser and the abuser. Or the accused, rather. The accused, forgive me. Why would you do that? That's like somebody, harming you And I'm going to say, I'm going to stand for you. I'm going to defend you. I'm going to be supportive of you. And behind your back, when I'm bored, I'm going to go listen to the opposition just because. Just because 5-year-olds give that kind of reasoning. Grow up. Okay, I'm done yelling at you. All right, so there you go. It was called Truth Matters. Micah Miller. Let me get that for you again. I'll read it to you again so you know where not to go. If you belong to this group, please leave it. Let me find it. I have to go find this garbage again. Justice for Micah Miller. Truth matters. They don't care about the truth. And there are other ones, by the way. I would go onto your Facebook right now and check out what groups you belong to. Look at the verbiage inside the group. Look at what they're talking about. And if it's not justice for Micah, if it's every way that they can under the rising sun to debunk everything that's been said and investigated against John Paul Miller, I would leave it because it's obviously a flying monkey. We've got Tracy Citrillo all of a sudden going into these, prime example, going into all of these different groups, and now she's acting as if she's siding for Micah Miller. Really? I find that interesting. You didn't start siding with Micah and going up against John Paul Miller until he was indicted. Before then, you were all for him. The other thing is, if you happen to be on TikTok, I don't know why you would be, but okay, if you happen to be on TikTok and you're following any of these people, whether they refer to themselves as content creators or podcasters or journalists, or I don't care, they could be elves for Santa Claus. It really doesn't matter what they call themselves. But if you happen to see only drama coming from them and no actual content that supports Micah or Chris, wave bye-bye. Don't waste your time. I wouldn't waste your time. All right. I won't say any more. I'll let you guys go. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because we have to be able to stop these people from trying to change and influence public perception. They will not change the legal outcome, no matter what they think. And so I wanted to make sure that you support that as well, that we will not allow them to try to change the public perception and the legal outcome. And please keep your eyes peeled and your ears open to all groups, including the protesters. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it's the truth. Not all of them, but there are some. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I will see you soon. Hopefully tomorrow I will come to you with the easy bread recipe and meatballs. If anything happens to come up, I'm not able to make it tomorrow, I will give you a notice. But as far as it seems at the moment, I will be coming back and we will go over those recipes. And as I said before, if anything does come up and I need to talk to you about it, I will come online and do a show and go live. So anyway, until then, please stay in prayer. Psalm 91, the Lord's Prayer, always in the name of Jesus Christ. And by the way, I did put the full sermon of that pastor who had that alarm go off when he was giving that warning. So it is on my channel. Anyhow, until I see you guys again, please stay safe and God bless.